Hello, welcome to the Happy Families podcast. School refusal continues to be one of those conversations that keeps on coming up. And alternative forms of schooling, it's something that I'm fascinated by because I've got a child who is homeschooling, got a child who's going through vocational and educational kind of school experience with an industry school. And I've got a couple of other kids who... Let's just say it was a battle. It was such a battle. And every single day I'm talking to parents who, for any number of reasons, are trying to find models of school that will work for their family because maybe they're traveling or because their children have extracurricular activities that are kind of becoming their lives. Or, I mean, the list is endless. There are so many reasons that school doesn't work for many families in its standard format. Today, a conversation with Jo Baker. Jo is running what I think is one of the most interesting online school opportunities that you might ever come across, and it's coming out of one of the more prestigious Melbourne independent schools. In other words, extremely high quality education, but in a way that possibly suits your family more than the standard school situation for any of those reasons. I'm fascinated by it. I still don't know all the details, but that's why I asked Jo to come on the podcast today. She is next. Stay with us. Hello and welcome to the Happy Families podcast, where you get real parenting solutions every single day. This is Australia's most downloaded parenting podcast. My name is Dr. Justin Coulson. Joanna Baker joins me today. Joanna is the head of campus at Haileybury Pangea, which is Victoria's first independent private online school. So I'm just going to say this at the outset before I go through Jo's bio. In some ways, this might sound like it's some kind of an advertorial for Haileybury Pangea and being an independent online private school. It's not. Well, I mean, it kind of is if you want to look at through that filter, but I haven't brought Jo on to have this conversation so that we can spruik Haileybury. I'm doing it because it's really hard to get great alternative schooling options, especially for online. And when I discovered what they were doing, I just thought this is a conversation that people will genuinely be interested in. So stick with me. Here's my introduction for where we're going here. In an era where online learning has assumed an increasingly important role in Australian schools, Jo Baker actively champions its potential to provide high-quality education to students from all backgrounds and regions. So here's Jo's background. Currently, head of campus at Haileybury Pangea, which is, as I said, Victoria's first private online school, launched a couple of years ago in January 2023, following the COVID challenges that Victoria had. I won't say anything more than that. It's a fully online school. It caters to students in years 5 through 12 who live across Victoria and the NT. We're going to talk about why it's just those two regions shortly. Jo has a stack of experience in schooling. She was head of secondary at Trinity Anglican in Cairns, also held a bunch of senior positions at Melbourne Girls Grammar, has a Masters of Education from the University of Melbourne and qualifications in cognitive psych, as well as educational leadership and management. It was a longer intro than normal, Jo, but you've done a whole lot of really interesting stuff, and I'm just so fascinated in what you're doing with Haileybury Pangea. Thanks for being on the pod.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you, Justin. And really keen to share a bit about what we've learned here at Haileybury about how we can remove some of those barriers to education, whether they're geographical or indeed other challenges that students have, and provide a new choice for families in the educational space, particularly in Victoria and the Northern Territory. All
right, let's kick straight into it. I want to start off with this whole idea of Pangea. So people in Victoria would be aware of Haileybury, from around the country, perhaps less so. It's an elite private school. It's just got all the resources and all the facilities, and it's a wonderful school. But this online idea, you've called it Haileybury Pangea. It's been running for 2-3 years now. What's Pangea? Help me to imagine. I'm 2 years old and I don't understand anything. What is Pangea? Or it's 7 years old?
That is a great question. It's one we do get quite often. We had a lot of different names in the hat for our online campus when we were developing it. We went with Pangea really based on the idea of the supercontinent Pangea. We wanted to, and that's something that our geography students do learn about that idea of, I suppose, bringing a community together across borders, across geographical boundaries, and really extending those opportunities to students and families. So that's something that I'm really passionate about. I live in a regional area. I live in Cairns myself.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And that's one of the great things about Haileybury Pangea is we can have staff that are not just based in Melbourne, they're also based in other parts of Australia as well. So I've seen with my own eyes how challenging it can be in different regional and remote areas of Australia to access a really brilliant education.
Yep.
So that was one piece of what we're trying to develop with Haileybury Pangea.
Yeah, so I'm really fascinated by this. Tell me about the students who would want to be involved in an online independent private school.
Well, that's been one of the great things that I've learned over time is we had our own hypothesis about the kinds of students that would be attracted to this environment and would thrive in this environment. Certainly, that has borne out. We've seen students who have significant commitments outside of school, whether that's sport, whether that's helping on the family farm, whether that's travel for performance and all kinds of things. Certainly those students have found us and continue to find us, which is really fantastic. We've seen a lot of students come to us who for various reasons really prefer online learning, and I think that's something that we did see during COVID as teachers. We saw that some students actually do better in an online environment because they have a bit of control over the physical space, they don't have the distractions of a classroom, and they can really work more at their own pace. And that's been particularly interesting to see with students who might have been a little bit disengaged because they're not being adequately challenged in school. Haileybury Pangea allows them to work faster, to accelerate where they're ready to do so, and that's been really great to see those students increasingly find us as well. And then, look, we have students who might have all kinds of circumstances that mean that they cannot get to a traditional school environment, whether that's geographical, whether that's family. It might be caring responsibilities in the home. It could be social emotional needs, physical health needs often as well. And again, it's been such a privilege to be part of their journey and be able to provide a solution where really there hadn't been a high quality educational solution for those students on offer previously. So yeah, so that's it's a real privilege to work with those families as well.
Joanna Baker joins me today. Joanna is the head of campus at Haileybury Pangea, which is Victoria's first independent private online school. Jo, tell me about the online learning experience. It's got to be different to what we called schooling at home during COVID a number of years ago now. Obviously, it's going to be markedly different from what we did during COVID, but it's also going to be quite different to an in-person schooling experience. What are the kids doing and how does this work?
Great question. Again, the one that we get most often is what actually happens on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. At Haileybury, we took the lessons we learned from our experiences during COVID, of course, but in fact, Haileybury Pangea was in the works in development prior to the pandemic. The pandemic experience, of course, really accelerated a lot of the developments in the technology that allowed us to launch Pangea. We worked with international experts in online and what we call blended learning, and we've developed our own blended model, which what that really means is that it's a mix, a blend of live instruction time with teachers in small online classes, typically about 6 to 10 students in a class. And then they'll have a mix of that and what we call self-paced learning or self-paced work. And that's delivered through our online courses that students are working throughout the week as well. And then in addition to that, there's lots of flexible support students can opt into during the week. It all runs online, academic coaches, that kind of thing. And we also have, of course, co-curricular programs. We have a community and pastoral program as well.
Right.
So yeah, we do try and really, really make sure that we are giving students the opportunity to develop their strengths, not just in the academic space, but develop their interests and their passions as well.
And so do the kids, the students, I presume that they get to know each other, like they create relationships that extend beyond the classroom based on the way you're describing this. Online school often feels like I'm here, I'm doing my thing, and then I go out and just forget all about school. But this sounds like there's a level of integration that might be unexpectedly high.
Absolutely. And that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions when people are initially looking at us, because yes, traditionally, a lot of the online school offerings in Australia and indeed around the world have been fairly independent, as in the students are really set off on their own to work through online coursework or packs in the old days as they were, and they didn't get much of that interaction with the teacher, or it was very minimal. Whereas we've really built that into our model. We think it's really important that students have that interaction with an expert teacher, but also that interaction with their peers in an academic environment as well. And we've really seen how that it does really connect to students. We've built a real learning community in Haileybury Pangea, which has been so rewarding to see. And the students, they make friends with each other quite organically. So often, you'll jump into a class and, there's two students at each other's house and they're joining together online. So it's been really lovely to see that. We do also have opportunities for our families to meet up in person, come to on-campus events and activities, and connect with the wider Haileybury community as well. So, while we are a lovely small campus at the moment, we are part of that wider Haileybury network, which is a great advantage for our students and families.
So this is a very, advertorial kind of question to ask, but compare what you're doing with online learning and distance education generally, because these options do exist in the public system. What is it that you're doing that differentiates, that adds value, that makes it I'm really intrigued by this. We've explored a whole lot of alternative schooling options throughout our 6 children's school experiences. So how does this differ to me signing my child up to the Queensland government or the Victorian government's online education portal and just schooling them at home in that fashion?
Yeah, great. It's a great question. And again, it comes down to what we set out to achieve. We wanted to deliver a brilliant education, a Haileybury education, in a different way. So when students come into Haileybury Pangea, it is the Haileybury curriculum. It is the brilliant teaching that we're known for, and indeed the majority of our teachers teach both online and on campus as well.
Right. Okay.
They're working with the heads of department that oversee all of our campuses, that oversee the curriculum and the teaching and learning development across the school. They're supported by our careers team and our wellbeing teams that work across all of our campuses. So we get that, I suppose, that shared expertise that we're bringing to students in this environment, which is, I think, a huge advantage of our model. And I think, again, that interaction, that personalised approach that we take in our model, ensuring that every student is challenged academically, that we're tracking really closely how they're progressing in their learning, and that teachers can adjust their instruction to their class. We've got those lovely small class sizes, so each student is getting that very personalised approach. And I think that's something that our students certainly talk about being what they enjoy most. It is the quality of the teaching and the quality of that interaction they get.
So at the start of the conversation, Jo, you mentioned that you're in Victoria and the Northern Territory. Everyone who's in New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Tassie, WA, or overseas is potentially listening to this and going, well, that sounds really good. How do I get involved? And so why is it that you're only in those two spaces at the moment?
Yes, absolutely. This has been a really interesting piece of developing Haileybury Pangea, because we do believe very strongly in extending, in advancing education in Australia, extending these choices as widely as we can to students and families. Unfortunately, the way education is regulated in Australia, it is state by state. And what we have learned in working with different states is that the regulations are really often not equipped to deal with this type of learning option. So we are certainly hoping to expand to other states and territories in the future. But yeah, Haileybury already having a presence in Melbourne and in Darwin at our Haileybury Rendell School and boarding school up there has allowed us to make those the first 2 states that we open to. We also do have many students who might be ordinarily residing or have a residential address in Victoria or the Northern Territory, but travelling. We have lots of families who might have, moved overseas temporarily, but are planning to move back, and those students can study with us as well, which is great.
Okay, so let's wrap this up. Core message to families who are considering online learning as an option because of any number of reasons that we've already discussed. What would you want parents to know about the online space and its viability in terms of education?
Yeah, look, I think we always come back to the idea that school shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all model. And with Haileybury Pangea, we're providing a different way of learning. It's not going to be right for every student at each point in their development, but what we found is that through that really careful process of working with each family and each student, we've been able to create pathways and create opportunities for students that either may be struggling with traditional schooling, or it's not right for their circumstances at different points in time, or indeed are looking for that academic challenge, a bit more independence, a bit more flexibility, and a bit more stretch in their learning as well. So, and again, it all really comes back to that community connection as well, being part of the Haileybury community, being part of the Pangea community, and having that balance of the academics, of course, which are at the centre of our programs, but also the wider social interaction and connection that students get with us as well. So I think that's probably sums it up, really.
Jo, I'm so fascinated by this. I obviously, because of the state education departments and all the bureaucracy and red tape that you've outlined, it may be more relevant for people in Victoria and the NT than other places, but I reckon this is going to give a whole lot of people a whole lot of food for thought. It's certainly got me thinking. And I really appreciate the conversation. Thanks for all you do for education for families who would otherwise struggle. I think this is really valuable.
Thank you so much, Justin. It's been a pleasure to speak with you today.
Jo Baker is the head of campus at Haileybury Pangea, which is Victoria's first independent private online school. We'll link to some details about Haileybury Pangea in the show notes so that you can read more and investigate. I think that's really interesting if you're looking at those alternative options for schooling. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Mim Hammonds provides our admin and additional support. If you'd like more info to make your family happier, you'll find all the details that you need at happyfamilies.com.au.